And welcome back, and thank you so much for tuning in to Morning Live. And we are, of course, going into an election year in 2019, general elections. And now that the political party of the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa, that's NUMSA, has finally been officially registered, they can now work towards overthrowing what they have called a brutal capitalist system. And the union says that the decision to go from a workers' union to a workers' party is one that was naturally on the cards. And of course, we are in conversation right now with Mr. Irvin Jim, who's the General Secretary of NUMSA. Welcome, and it's been a while, but good to see you.
Good morning. It's good to see you too, Sagina.
So this is your fight back against the brutal capitalist system. Talk to us.
Well, I think we wouldn't be want to be alarmistic or threaten anybody, but you would appreciate that as a union, we're a union that has basically had a preamble whose mission and task is to end economic exploitation. And one of the things that we have been very vocal about was that the South African transition should change the ordinary masses of our people, in particular, were black and African, because what the ANC government failed to do was to restructure South African economy, and in the main, Sagina, to address the fundamental issues of ownership and control of the economy. And I think we can be brutally honest, and we might not produce black and white signed document, but I think we can say that there was a negotiated deal with capital, and that deal, in our view, is that the ANC will just run political power. Economic power will remain in the hands of a tiny minority, which is white monopoly capital and white population. And I think as a union, we're very clear, out of experience and out of the battles we would have waged, that if you do not, what we have not won in the base, which is the economy, you cannot win in the superstructure, which is politics. And therefore, we're here to basically champion radical revolutionary measures, but we're not here to make people to run away because we are chaotic, we don't care, we don't analyze the balance of forces around us. I mean, I had an opportunity in my experience or as a trade unionist of addressing all these people who are investors. They are here, they are global, but they are in this country, they invest here. And when we articulate what needed to be done to affirm the bulk majority, which is black and African, because that's the only way to change power relations in society, because if we got equal access to the economy, I mean, what you will have is that there will be no reason for you to discriminate against me. People will have access to the economy. I mean, those of us who live a middle-class life, who can afford, me and you, our children can get to good quality schools. But for the working class and the poor, township schools are still township schools that produce garden boys and basically domestic workers. And we're of the view that that's what this party must wrestle with.
Are you not just being opportunistic? Because the truth of the matter is, one has to ask, when did this clarity suddenly dawn on you? Given that as an affiliate of COSATU for many years, you were part and parcel of that structure that you are now blaming for this morass that the South African worker finds him or herself in.
I think our history speaks for itself, and I think there's nobody who was surprised within the ANC leadership core, within the South African Communist Party, in COSATU. We have been very consistent as a union. NUMSA is known in COSATU for basically championing the struggle around restructuring of South African economy. For instance, we took up a very big issue about the fact that it is not the agenda of this government in a bold way that says manufacturing matters, and as such you would have done everything else to make sure that you champion manufacturing and industrialization. I mean, all our commanding heights, we have demanded that they must be nationalized. All our minerals, we've demanded that they should be nationalized under worker control to champion a job-led industrial strategy. And I mean, you can go back to the Nationalist Party. They did it for Afrikaners. They had maize board, they had wool board. So I'm very relaxed, Sakina, that it doesn't mean that people are not going to say we're opportunistic, we're doing all what we're doing because Jim wants to go to parliament and so forth. That's not the issue. The issue we're about is to organize the working class as a class to challenge the dominance of white supremacy and capitalism. I mean, if you look to the gap between the rich and the poor in this country, if you look to socio-economic condition, the people who are vulnerable, who continue to be languishing in poverty, in unemployment, it is the working class.
But if you look at the jobs bloodbath that we find ourselves with currently in South Africa, why should anyone trust unions that they would actually be able to make a difference in this regard?
Speaking for NUMSA, I think we would have done a lot, I mean, to defend the current capacity that we still have. But I must say that we have done this against a very brutal government which have adopted what we called 1996 macroeconomic program in the form of GEAR. You could not have quickly identified the problem, but we did. That GEAR was about growth, employment, and redistribution is very nice. But the devil is in the detail. Basically, it was about liberalizing trade, opening our market, allowing dumping of production which is not manufactured in this country. What did that do? That have led to serious levels of deindustrialization in this country. You will remember Trevor Manuel. He was the Minister of Finance who was, every budget speech was about to remove exchange control, allowing money to leave this country, which we desperately needed to be invested in productive sectors of the economy.
But at the time, as NUMSA, you were one of the largest affiliates of COSATU, which is in an alliance with the ANC at the time. And you were unable to make any sort of meaningful inroads in changing that policy. How are you going to do it now?
First, I think, second, I want you to relax. We have no regrets about being part of the Liberation Alliance. And I'm saying this honestly to you that if there's one thing we did when we were there, I mean, it is us who raised the bar of the debate, and we were using a very simple thing. I mean, the ANC is a multi-class formation, which we were part of. Is a multi-class formation, which basically says the working class in that multi-class formation is the motive force of the revolution. It is NUMSA that asks the question, if the working class is the motive force of the revolution, meaning that if I were to use an example of a car, it is an engine, on what basis that the policies that the ANC champion are not actually advancing the interests of the working class? That's what made us to be popular, and we've been consistent. And I think I was consistent when I was in the region, and I was consistent when I was privileged to be the General Secretary, and I'm very proud that I think if there's one thing that we will not be flattered about, is consistency. Our dismissal in 2014 is a direct product of that consistency in articulating.
It may have made you popular, and that is fine. But the point I'm making is that you failed to actually change the policy trajectory that you were fighting against.
Can I just explain that? We didn't just fail. We actually wanted a democratic process. What we did as an affiliate of COSATU, which launched COSATU in 1985, we said, we went, for instance, to our Congress in 2013. And so again, this must be appreciated. I mean, here is a union. In 2009, it's got its own Congress. But in 2013, without our term of office having come to an end, we took resources of workers and convened a special national Congress in 2013. That special Congress said, we are sick and tired of taking workers' dues and continue to vote for the ANC after 5 years. And once they get into power, and of course, ideologically, this does not shock us because, I mean, the dominant class in society, which is capital, I mean, it's always there in the state. I mean, it is the working class that voted for Zuma. We singed for him. We put him into power. Once he became the president, he became the CEO of the dominant class like Cyril Ramaphosa is.
But let me ask you this now.
And for those resolutions, and we said COSATU must convene a Congress where we wanted to liberate the whole working class. We said, be democratic. Call a COSATU Congress to Mudlamini. Let's debate the fact that this alliance is selling out the working class, is not championing a revolutionary agenda. And as an industrial union, we have witnessed serious levels of deindustrialization. For that, their democracy was to dismiss us and then call that Congress when we're not there, knowing fully well that we will not be able to participate.
For this new party, and you say that you will champion the agenda for the interest of the working class. So what exactly will be your key areas of focus?
I think that fundamentally, manufacturing is key. Secondly, to pursue policies that addresses the restructuring of South African economy. And this is going to mean that engaging, debating with yourselves, recruiting you, people who knows what need to be done. Because again, we're building a party. We need women of standing with capacity to engage, to communicate some of these messages. I mean, the issue of nationalization, which basically is a swear word, because when you raise it, people say, look what is happening in Venezuela and everything else. And I think we're not clumsy. We're not necessarily arguing that these resources, I mean, we got a big issue that we're putting on the table. We're saying this country is rich. It has got minerals that can feed all its own people. And we're not saying that those who are receiving them must not continue to receive them. But we're saying we should be the first people to actually make sure that at the back of our minerals, we should be beneficiating, we should be diversifying, we should be championing industrialization. Why, for instance, would Eskom today be destroyed by the IPPs for selfish, clear reasons that this is another new state capture, when people who are basically destroying it are saying they are destroying the first one, which is associated with President Zuma. And if you're serious about manufacturing and industrialization, one thing that you will not privatize and destroy is Eskom, because you need a competitive electricity tariff to champion your manufacturing and industrialization for small, medium-sized companies. And every day I'm handling retrenchments of companies who are closing because they can't afford electricity. And what is the reason? It's renewables. It's because nobody talks about that. It's because cost-plus mines that Eskom, me and you, we paid for, were handed over to Exxaro, to South 32, to Glencore. And I can tell you that from 2008 to 2015, year on year, these guys receive on primary coal increase for 17%, 300% during that period when inflation was hovering around 74%. Why is that not a state capture?
Mr. Jim, I'll tell you what, I am so looking forward to the election debates going into that 2019 election year, especially now that NUMSA has registered a party, the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party. And as you can see, it is going to be lit. Thank you so much, Irvin Jim, for stopping by, the General Secretary of NUMSA. And with that, we go to the news.